Честно сказать, я пока визуально не вижу, ничего не могу сказать, потому что, короче, я не знаю, от чего это есть.
So there are a couple of announcements for this session that are deviating from the programs that you have. First being that Sharafuddin Nazarov, who is the member of parliament, is not able to attend because he has an important parliamentary meeting scheduled for today. I think it was quite sudden change in his schedule. So that's the first announcement. Second announcement is that we'll have a keynote speaker who will speak to us from China online. His name is Gengshen Xia. He's the Deputy Administration from the National Rural Revitalization Administration in China. So it's about body in Chinese government that is responsible for regional administration and regional development. So I think it will fit nicely with our this agenda. So if are the technical side, are you guys technician video müracaat koyuştu. Aynı zaman koyası tamam. So without further ado, I want to welcome you all. Welcome everybody to the panel number 3. We'll talk about regional development and its role in economic growth and poverty reduction. So we are ready to see our video presentation. If video and then we'll start the panel right after. Are there translation or voice?
尊敬的马洪上鼓励央姆苏总统顾问阁下，尊敬的贾姆希德夫妻卡鲁夫副总理阁下，尊敬的各位部长阁下、女士们、先生们、朋友们，很高兴从各国同事相聚云端，共同出席首届乌兹别克斯坦国际减贫论坛，交流减贫经验，展望乡村发展。在此，我谨代表中国国家乡村振兴局，对大家长期以来关心支持中国减贫和乡村发展事业表示诚挚感谢。中国是世界上最大的发展中国家，也是农村居民人口众多的国家，14亿多人口中有5亿多生活在农村。农业、农村、农民始终是中国共产党治国理政的重要关切，始终是中国政府建设、发展和服务的重点领域。特别是2012年中国共产党第18次全国代表大会以来，以习近平同志为核心的党中央，把解决好3农问题作为全党工作重中之重，团结带领全党全社会胜利打赢脱贫攻坚战，乘势而上，开启全面推进乡村振兴的新征程。我们大力实施精准扶贫方略，用发展的办法、精准的方法实现高效减贫、高质量脱贫。按照扶贫必先施贫的原则，对农村贫困人口建打绿卡，实现贫困分布、致贫原因、脱贫需求、帮扶措施到村到户到人，有效解决扶持使然，严格责任落实到人要求，实行党跟1把手，对脱贫攻坚负总招，层层落实责任制，夯实减贫的基础，累计选派300多万干部入村帮扶，有效解决 谁来扶正呢？我们秉持对症下药的理念，推进发展生产、异地搬迁、生态补偿、发展教育、社会保障、兜底等5个一批脱贫举措，有效解决怎么扶的问题，树牢精准脱贫目标导向，明确标准程序，严把贫困退出关口，组织第三方评估检查，有效解决如何退的问题，建立防止返贫动态监测和帮扶机制，对存在致贫返贫风险的农户定期检查、动态管理，做到早发现、早干预、早帮扶，有效解决如何稳的问题。经过努力，中国现行标准下9899万农村贫困人口成功脱贫，提前10年实现联合国2030年可持续发展议程的减贫目标，为全球减贫事业发展和人类发展进步贡献了中国方案，注入了中国动能。中国减贫实践表明，贫穷不是命中注定，贫困并非不可战胜。精准扶贫方略是实现联合国2030年可持续发展议程减贫目标的有效路径。与贫困作斗争，最重要的是要有勇气、远见、责任和担当。只要有坚定意志和决心，并付诸实际行动，就能够向着摆脱贫困、实现共同富裕的美好前景不断迈进。我们全面推进乡村振兴战略，促进农业高质高效，乡村宜居宜业，农民富裕富足。消除绝对贫困不是终点，而是新生活、新奋斗的起点。脱贫攻坚任务完成后，中国三农工作重心历史性的转移到全面推进乡村振兴。我们坚持把巩固脱贫攻坚成果作为乡村振兴的前提，坚决守住不发生规模性返贫的底线。在此基础上，努力让脱贫群众生活更上一层楼，做好巩固拓展脱贫攻坚成果同乡村振兴有效衔接，把工作对象转向所有农民，把工作任务转向推进产业振兴、人才振兴、文化振兴、生态振兴、组织振兴等5大振兴，把工作举措转向促进发展，推动农业农村与国家同步实现现代化，聚焦产业促进乡村发展，扎实稳妥推进乡村建设，加强和改进乡村治理，持续朝着产业兴旺、生态宜居、乡风文明、治理有效、生活富裕的方向迈进，使全体农民在乡村振兴中不断增强获得感、幸福感、安全感。我们将努力以乡村振兴的务实行动和扎实成果，为全球乡村治理贡献新的样本，探索新的路径。女士们、先生们，长期以来，我们始终秉持共建人类命运共同体的理念，围绕减贫和乡村发展，与乌兹别克斯坦等上合组织成员国建立经常性联系，开展机制性交流，推进务实性合作。我局指导中国国际扶贫中心同乌兹别克斯坦对口部门签署减贫合作谅解备忘录，支持举办追求美好生活中国和乌兹别克斯坦脱贫成就线上展览，与上合组织秘书处联合召开共享减贫经验、 携手应对疫情特别视频会议，积极参加上合组织框架下成员国减贫部门负责人会晤等系列活动，促进官方外交和民间外交多样化发展，推动双边、多边交流合作不断走深走实。我们也认识到，受新冠肺炎疫情等因素影响，全球减贫事业正面临新的挑战，迫切需要各方携起手来，共同应对。在减贫与乡村发展主题下，各国之间互学互鉴、携手发展的空间十分广阔。我们愿同有关方面一道，积极践行上海精神，相向而行，合作共赢，继续聚焦发展，共谋民生福祉，继续携手同心，共创美好未来。最后，祝论坛圆满成功，谢谢大家。
Can you guys hear me? Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Today, we'll now start talking with our panelists who are present here and online. So, with your permission, I'll introduce our speakers in a sequence that is in your programs. So the first speaker is to my left, Mr. Burhan Bashir, the former chairman of Government of Algeria. Then is Dan Leipziger, he's the managing director of the Growth Dialogue George Washington University. Next is Saida Khofazadeh, he's the first deputy minister of economic development and poverty reduction of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Next is Matthias Luck, he's a consultant, German economic team, professor at Kiel University. And then Corinne Mitchell, she's director of programs and operations at Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. As I mentioned, we do not have Sharafuddin Nazarov. He wasn't able to attend the session. So please welcome our speakers and dear guests. So the way I'm envisioning the format for today's dialogue is following. I'll let every speaker talk about between 2.5 and 3.5 minutes about what they think about regional development and what it means to economic growth and reduction of poverty. And afterwards, I'll try to connect the dots and let speakers talk to each other about the ideas that raised. So, without further ado, I want to yield the floor to Mr. Abdullah. So please take it away. He was one side note, Batumi is a wonderful city, and it's the capital of Algeria. And I recommend everybody visiting. It's probably one of the most beautiful sea towns in the world. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, and let's start this event continue with the plenary session I mentioned. We should realize that the developing of the country and how to reduction of poverty. So main goal, there is a two-way. First, it's a creation of jobs. The second, of course, it's some kind of obligation. So, and I will tell you just shortly about our project. We call it the Batumi Miracle. The city capital of Algeria. Very small, only 400,000 population. I used to work as a prime minister as a 2012. And when we started, of course, we realized that we need faster one. But I will tell you frankly, how to start with that. And sometimes I tell you frankly, how to start with that, because no money. And it's very good when this creation and job and the whole thing country, we should divide it like in two parts. First part, of course, we should realize that what I'm going, what I'm doing as central. And globally, what Georgia already did for central government, simplify and transfer regulation. It's simplification and reducing the taxes, attractive investment environment, transparent privatization, most important, abolition of bureaucracy, simplified systems of permits and licenses. Of course, globally, but the central government, they did it. After that, we should do something. For that reason, it's very important how you collaborate, how to working together, central and local government. And for us, first 1-2 years was incredible part how to start. But after that, we realized that we need a strategic plan. After that, we realized that we focus on some different areas of development of the region. And for that reason, we did, thanks for international experts, and thanks for my team, first of all. We invited society, business, invited experts, and started thinking what is the future of the region. And we have a big, like a huge information discussion and define like 15 priorities. After that, we discuss, no, we should choose 3, maximum 5. And believe me, when we choose it, and I will tell you this 5, what was the core region. First of all, it was tourism. Second, agriculture is light industry. Third, education. Fourth is healthcare. And fifth one, infrastructure. And you should understand what was the difference between 2004 and 12. First, tourism. When we started, totally per year, we have 75,000 tourists. And that best hotel in the city of Batumi, it was 9-room boutique hotel.
Is it still working?
After 8 years, we had a 1.6 million tourists. And totally for Georgia, this is a really good number. 2017, we had more than 7 million. With the population of 3.5. Second one, when we're talking about priorities, second, it was a infrastructure. And we understand, so if you're thinking about developing tourists, it's vice versa. With the best chicken or eggs, where you should spend because all the concern to deal with and of course, all these parts developing, it will be coming as a success story. And coming back to Uzbekistan, stories. I think even before Bukhara, I visited Tashkent and Mogadishu. And what I thought is the most important, starting how to make priorities for all regions. And whatever you're giving them more power to regions, whatever you're giving the priorities to regions, it's my strategy always strong regions. So I can talk too many things about Georgia and Batumi because we are limited time. I will stop now, but we'll continue discussion.
Thanks so much for your notes. We will want to hear about what's working the hotel. It has 9 rooms, but there.
It's a hotel there.
It's still on?
No. The building is still not there, but
Yeah, so Batumi is a very different place, and we love to hear more about how they actually work. So
But
now,
one more picture, even thinking about strategic plans, we first time were created for next 3 years. But frankly speaking, we understand, so next year, we need changes. And what I recommend is strongly, all of the regions, wherever you make it. If we make a strategic plan, we should update it even minimum once a year. And we can make it like a big goal, like a 3 years, 5 years, all this updated every year. Because 21st century. 21st century is.
in the last 3 years, we have two economic crises. So before I yield the floor to Daniel Leipziger, I just wanted to introduce one of the online speakers of the session. Mr. Amir Garrett, who's the head of section of transformation cluster and regional economic development within VDI and VDE IT. So he's here with us online, to head up. And I yield the floor to Daniel Leipziger, and I want him to talk about what he thinks about regional development, production poverty and economic growth. Take it away then.
Thank you, Prasad. Happy to be here. I think we heard in the first plenary that we have to set priorities, and that's the trouble with the sessions. Each session seems to be a priority, but you have to, choose among them and be selective. So I would start with, why one would consider regional development to be a priority. And move on to some of the limitations that come along with that. So if you think about it at the large, let's say, geographic level, a lot of economic activity gravitates towards the main cities. And that's because they're good economic reasons for their economies of agglomeration, as we call it. And firms and others want to do economic activity. Of course, as cities get larger, Tashkent isn't there yet, but as cities get larger, you start getting the negative side of this kind of concentration in the form of congestion, pollution, housing problems, etc. So then people start thinking, well, maybe we need more intermediate size cities. Maybe we need to disperse sort of like portfolio theory with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Start spreading out. And it seems to coincide with other economic and social infrastructures that like the benefits of growth can be distributed more widely and not just in one. And the question is, which regions and what to do. And a lot of these issues are political, but I'm just going to focus on the economic side of it. And I would start by a link between regional development and the theme of this conference, which is poverty. So I was involved a long time ago, 20 years ago, in a poverty assessment that the World Bank used to work with the most successful country in South America. Chile. But they had some poverty. They had pockets of poverty. And so the World Bank teams came in and said, what can we do? Look at all our instruments, all our interventions. How can we solve this? And a well-known Chilean economist aside and said, Danny, there are only two interventions that you need. One is education for the next generation, and the second is roads to get out. And the lesson of this is that not every region is going to be productive. Not every region is going to be efficient or competitive. And you have to find what the advantage of that region is. And some regions will be more competitive. So I think there are a couple of lessons that one can draw from looking at regional development experiences. Other countries. Sometimes they're very expensive and they don't yield good results. So what are the lessons that are positive? And so my first lesson is really that the region has to be productive and competitive, right? It's not to say that you shouldn't have basic infrastructure in all parts of the country, which you have basic sanitation, energy, etc. Education, etc. But it's probably a mistake to think that each region can be powerhouse. Inside the World Bank and other places, people talk about there's place-based policies, which is having to do with how do you deal with these lacking regions, right? And so my Chile example is one way to think about it. And the other way to think about it is that maybe you don't want to overinvest in where people are today. If there's going to be migration, they want to figure where the people are going to be tomorrow. Right, so once you get around the basic division of services, this additional investment may need to be more strategic. That strategic investment, like Ivan was saying, needs to have some sort of a strategy, but the strategy needs, it's the third lesson, alignment with the national strategy. Each region can go off and do what it wants because it needs support from central government for infrastructure, activity, universities, whatever. So there has to be some sort of alignment. And I think that often is the area where regional development strategies don't work so well if there's not good alignment. I've been a lot of countries that have tried regional development strategies and they've been moderately successful, but not fantastic. And that includes Malaysia, some parts of China. Then there are others that have been very good. Korea has had a very good regional development strategy because it was connected to its industrial policy and where economic clusters were formed. And the last fourth lesson has to do with the interventions, right? And it was discussed earlier in the plenary that one has to think about packages of interventions. Because even if you look at the EU and their integrated territorial development plans, they are across the board, infrastructure, governance, a whole bunch of other aspects. And so the alignment and the coordination things, third and fourth, are for me rather critical. And I think as I look at the Uzbek economy, I think that those are areas where further progress needs to be made. So that's the opening comments.
Thank you, Dan. I'll definitely follow up with all the pieces after everybody with their mark. So the next in line is Meyer Gehr. He's online, I think, from Germany, if I'm not wrong. And can you hear us? And if you guys can let us hear him here, that would be fantastic.
Okay, good.
Hi, Mayor, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. So can you hear me as well?
We can hear you quite well. So welcome to Bukhara online. We can see you well, we can hear you well. So please take it away. The floor is yours for 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay, so thanks a lot, and very sorry that I'm not able to with you on this very interesting conference. Yes, I would like to focus a bit my contribution on the fact that we see a lot of regional development activities worldwide, but what very often is a bit missing is that regions, regardless whether they're front runners or lacking behind, sometimes miss to focus in their strategy really on local strengths and opportunities. We see, unfortunately, pretty often that there is more bits and pieces, a bit here, a bit here. Let's build a highway here. Let's do a bit on education efforts here, and that really doesn't really work pretty well. We also can see that very often there's a tendency that topics and scopes are considered which are, let's say, high on the policy agenda, a bit wishful thinking. And we can see that regions develop well which were brave enough to really focus on their regional strengths and focus on what they can really turn into practice, because what is very specific for regions is they have limited capacities. So for us, according to our experience, it is very important that regions, if they do develop a strategy, are brave enough to really focus on a couple of things they can really implement and not try to do everything with limited resources. So I guess here we have very good examples, for example, from some, let's say, a bit lacking behind regions in Europe, which did very, very well. What they did well is that they really identified in a long participatory process what are the existing strengths and what are the future strengths. And they do not just focusing on where they're strong today, rather than where they see a lot of opportunities. And I guess that is something what we should more take into account, even when we talk about regional development to poverty reduction, that all regions have some strengths, even on different levels. So I guess what is important to emphasize is that we have to really, in these strategies, identify current strengths and future strengths and focus on such, let's call, growth areas, and really implement something which is really doable. We did a bit already in some missions we did before in Uzbekistan, and even where you might on a first glance have the feeling that the regions are all the same, nice landscape, agriculture, tourism, and so on. If you have a more detailed look, the different regions are very different. So that means if we continue with different master plans or regional strategies in Uzbekistan, I'm pretty sure that different regions and different districts have different strengths. And it would be really good in the future if further efforts are spent that we are all able to identify the individual strengths of the regions, which are not always the same. So I guess that is a short message I would like to post, that if we want to change something and have something sustainable, we really have to dig deeper with new tools and very engagement of local community to find current strengths and identify or try to predict in which areas we can identify the most promising growth areas. That's for the moment my short message I would like to post. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Maya. Again, I will follow up with every speaker after everybody have given us their introductory remarks. So next up is Said Afaf, who's the First Deputy Minister of Economic Development and Poverty Reduction. And then I will I'll ask a question in Uzbek, and I hope that you guys have translators with you. Safa Haraka, معنا سوالم quyidagıcha. Hozir har bir mutaxassis o'zini 1-2 daqiqalik, 2-3 daqiqalik kirish so'zini aytadi, keyin esa savollar beradi. Shuning uchun sizdan so'raydiganim mana shu hududiy rivojlanish va kambag'allikni qisqartirish va ayniqsa iqtisodiy rivojlanishga doir qanday masalalar mavjud sizning vazirligingizda va hukumatda, va nimalar haqida ko'proq bu panelda gaplashishingizni xohladik. Shu haqida aytasiz. Rahmat.
Rahmat. Avvalambor xush kelibsizlar O'zbekistonga. Bugungi forumimizda sizlarni ko'rib turganimizdan nihoyat xursandmiz. Endi paneldagi mavzuga keladigan bo'lsak, bugungi hozirgi o'tgan panelimizda biz kambag'allikni qisqartirish mavzusida har bir regionni, har bir davlatni o'zini strategiyasi bo'ladigan bo'lsa, har bir davlatda va har bir regionda bu o'ziga yarasha ustuvor yo'nalishlari bo'ladi. Va bugun men sizlar bilan muhokama qilishga ko'proq davlatda mablag'larini qaysi yo'nalishlarga ko'proq sarflashimiz va hududlarni kambag'allikni qisqartirish bo'ladigan sohalarda iqtisod yo'nalishi bitta yo'nalishi bo'lsa, ya'ni ish o'rinlari yaratilish bo'yicha. Bundan tashqari juda muhim soha hisoblanadi bu aholining ijtimoiy holatini ham yaxshilash. O'shanga qisqacha o'zimizda davlatda amalga oshirilgan islohotlar haqida ma'lumot beraman va o'ylaymanki boshqa ekspertlarimizdan ham boshqa davlatlarda o'sha aholini iqtisodiy holati bilan birgalikda ijtimoiy holatni ham rivojlantirish bo'yicha nima chora-tadbirlar, qanaqa tizimli ishlar amalga oshirilishi haqida ma'lumot almashishni o'zimizga rasm qo'yganmiz. Ellik og'iz O'zbekistonda amalga oshirilgan islohotlarga to'xtalib o'tadigan bo'lsak, hali to'g'ri ta'kidlab o'tildi. Har bir regionning o'zini ustun taraflari bor. Jumladan O'zbekistonda ham 14 region bo'ladigan bo'lsa, har bir region bir-biriga o'xshaydi. Qaysi bir regionda bu qishloq xo'jaligi juda ustuvor soha, qaysi bir regionda bu yirik sanoat ko'proq rivojlangan va potensial shunga moslashgan bo'ladi. Qaysi bir yo'nalishda kichik ishlab chiqarish sohada juda yaxshi rivojlangan. Xususan aytadigan bo'lsak, vodiy viloyatlarimiz ko'proq bular kichik ishlab chiqarishga aholini ko'nikmalarga shunga yo'naltirilgan va o'sha yerdagi hozirgi sharoitlarga kichik ishlab chiqarishga rivojlantirishga juda katta potensiallarimiz bor. Toshkent va Toshkent atrofidagi joylarimiz bu yirik sanoatga ko'proq ixtisoslashgan va aholini daromadini ko'paytirish va umuman regionni rivojlantirishga bu katta korxonalarimizni o'rnab va tugatib. Shu bilan birgalikda Xiva shaharlarimizni, Xorazm viloyati, Buxoro, Samarqand o'zida juda yaxshi turizmga, hunarmandchilikka juda yaxshi ixtisoslashgan va qishloq xo'jaligi yo'nalishlarimiz bo'yicha ham bu Samarqand, Xorazm, Qashqadaryo viloyatlarimiz bu qishloq xo'jalik va chorvachilikka juda yaxshi ixtisoslashgan hisoblanadi. Endi bu ularning ustun tarafidan kelib chiqqan holda hozir qanaqa ishlarni boshlayapti. Birinchi navbatda biza davlat tomonidan ajratiladigan mablag'larni konsentratsiya qilish va tadbirkorlikka ko'proq imkoniyat sharoit yaratish maqsadida kichik sanoat zonalar joylarda yaratilish katta ahamiyat qaratilgan. Bilamizki, davlatda mablag'i cheklangan davrda juda ko'plab tadbirkorlar o'z faoliyatlarini amalga oshirishga ehtiyoj bo'lsa va bevosita infratuzilmalar ta'minlab berishimiz kerak. Yo'l, elektr va boshqa. Lekin O'zbekistonning sharoitida hozirgi ko'radigan bo'lsak, hamma korxonalar azal-azaldan ko'proq tarqoq joyda, har xil o'zilik joyda manzilida joylashgan bo'lgan va mana shu ishlab chiqarishlarni, kichik ishlab chiqarishlarni keyingi tashkil etiladigan va amalda bir joyga jamlash va ularga kamroq xarajat qilgan holda maksimal ularga sharoit yaratish maqsadida kichik sanoat zonalarini yaratish bo'yicha mana oxirgi 5 yilda juda katta ishlar amalga oshirilgan va hozirgi paytda dastlabki ular o'zlarining natijalarini bizlarning iqtisodiy ko'rsatkichlarimizni berib kelmoqda. Bu birinchi yo'nalish. Ikkinchi yo'nalish aytadigan bo'lsak, aytganimdek ijtimoiy holatni yaxshilash bo'yicha. Ijtimoiy holatda bu o'zimiz hammamiz juda yaxshi bilamiz, bekitadigan holat emas. Bu O'zbekistondagi regionlardagi ijtimoiy holat markazga yoki viloyat markazlariga nisbatan farq qiladi. Bir xilda rivojlanmagan, bir xilda sharoit yaratilmagan. Va shu holatdan kelib chiqqan holda odamlarning o'zi nimani xohlayotganligiga qarab turib, davlatning mablag'ini adresini yo'naltirish, manzilga yo'naltirish maqsadida ikkita yo'nalishda ishlar amalga oshirilyapti. Birinchi navbatda bu investitsion dasturlar doirasida hududlarda amalga oshiriladigan yo'l, ijtimoiy obyektlar, maktab, bog'chalar qurilishi, shu bilan birgalikda ichimlik suvi, elektr energiya yetkazib berish va boshqa masalalarni hozirda viloyat hokimiyatlari vakolatiga o'tkazildi, ya'ni viloyat hokimiyati aholining o'rtasidagi muammolarni o'rgangan holda bizda o'zinglar xabaringlar bor, xalq qabulxonasi degan katta bir idora faoliyat yuritishni boshlagan 5 yil oldin va bu idorada aholi o'zlarida hududlarida tumanida hozirda mavjud bo'lgan muammolar va ularni yechimi yuzasidan xalq qabulxonasiga murojaatlar boradi va o'sha xalq qabulxonasi tomonidan berilgan murojaatlarni o'rgangan holda mahalliy hokimliklar qaysi tumanda yo'llarni ta'minlash kerak, qaysi tumanda maktab qurishimiz kerak, qaysi joyda bog'chani ta'minlashimiz kerak va boshqa yo'nalishlarni ko'proq vakolatni mahalliy hokimiyatga berildi. Bu o'ylayman o'zini yaxshi samarasini beradi. Chunki markazdan turib hamma regionni ham muammolarni birdek ko'rib tanishtirib bo'ldi. Albatta bu bevosita hamma ma'lumotlar yig'ilgandan keyin o'sha tegishli vazirlik idoralar bilan kelishilgan holda amalga oshadi. Bu bitta yo'nalishimiz. Ikkinchi yo'nalishimiz bo'ladigan bo'lsa, bu Mana o'tgan yildan boshlab tashabbusli budjet qilgan loyihani amalga oshirganmiz. Ya'ni davlat tomonidan ajratiladigan yetkazib berilgan mablag'lar ma'lum bir qismini 30%ni vazirlik o'tgan yildan boshlab 5%ni yo'naltirishi rejalashtirilgan. Ya'ni xalq o'zi ovoz beradi, qaysi loyihani amalga oshirish uchun ko'proq ovoz beriladigan bo'lsa, o'sha loyihalar moliyalashtirish amalga oshiriladi. Ikki tarafdan keltirib o'taman. O'tgan yilda ikkinchi yarmida boshlangan bo'lsa, tashabbusli budjetda 1,1 million aholi har xil yo'nalishdagi o'zlarining muammolarini o'rtaga tashlashgan va shu muammolar tahlil qilingan natijasida 478 milliard so'mlik loyihalar mahalla hududida bu moliyalashtirildi. Bu yildan boshlab ketmadi. Bu yilgi 22 yilda e'lon qilingan tashabbusli budjetga endi mana 4,5 milliondan ortiq aholi o'zining ovozini berdi. Ya'ni jami aholining 19% bu yo'nalishga befarq emasligini bildirdi. Bundan bilinadiki, mana ajratilgan mablag'imizni shunga yarasha 4 trilliondan ortiq mablag'larimizni har bir yilga bor bu. Aynan mahalladagi qaysi bir mahallaning ichki yo'llari, qaysi bir mahalladagi suv tarmog'iga egilish, qaysi bir joyda ijtimoiy obyektlarimizni ta'mirlash, yangisini qurishga yo'naltirilgan. Eng asosiy tarafi bu yerda aholini o'zidagi bor muammolarni ko'proq ovoz yig'ish orqali yutib olishga harakat qilishni boshladi. Bu o'ylaymanki, bu tajribani biz yildan yilga ko'paytirib boradigan bo'lsak, davlat tomonidan yo'naltirilgan mablag'larimizni o'sha manzilga yetib borishiga hissasini qo'shadi.
Dr. Rahman, so the next is so can I ask the coordinator to go next? Could you and your next in this video with not in the line, so so please you'll go to you for 15 minutes of opening remarks. And, thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for responding. So we've heard a lot about the need for coordination, for prioritization, and for understanding the context of the different regions. So I'm going to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the interventional poverty measures and how they can help as a policy tool for exactly this. So the multidimensional poverty index is useful for understanding regional prioritization, regional strategy on poverty reduction, so that we keep disaggregated, segregated. So which means you can see differences among the regions. Not just how many people are poor or the percentage of people who are poor, but also how poor they are. And then this will be used for such budget allocation, which countries like Costa Rica, Bhutan, have done, this within their budget allocation formulas, so that they are ensuring that the poorest regions are adequately resourced to develop. You can then track that progress and have updates of data. Also, then update your strategy as the panelists. You can track the progress to see if the forest regions are to their neighbors, or unfortunately, if they're lagging behind, you can see that as well. But then you can disaggregate even further, because it's a multidimensional measure. So it's not just income poverty, but other aspects of what it means to be poor: education, health, housing, water. And you can look within the measure and see the different profiles of poverty for the different regions. So it highlights it in one region, maybe water is the most salient issue among the poor, and in another, maybe it's health or it's education. And that allows you to have more targeted programs for the different regions. So you're devising better solutions to tackle the problems rather than a one-size-fits-all sort of approach. And then by putting these two things together, so the composition of poverty and the tracking progress, you can see which indicators are driving reductions in poverty at the regional level as well. So it's giving you an information platform that helps you do all the things that my fellow panelists have been talking about, the importance of strategizing, prioritization, and coordinating with national strategy while also understanding the regional context. Which brings me to my last point, because I know time is short. Which that it can also be, because it's a national measure, but one that can look in different regions, it can also help with coordination tool. And so in some countries, they have had people at the national government then go and work with different states or federal regions with their local social development specialists or their local statisticians to help them understand how the multidimensional poverty in their regions, how they can reduce it, and then how that feeds into national level poverty, multidimensional poverty reduction. And so it's acting as a tool so that what's happening at the regional level is also then showing at the national level, so everyone's like marching in the same direction or playing football together. So mentioned earlier. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your remarks, and last but not least, Matt Matthew, so take it away.
Thanks very much. I would like to highlight that in Kyrgyzstan, poverty reduction is happening at the same time that the population is growing quite fast. And in fact, the labor force is growing to such an extent that every year we figure at least 300,000 jobs have to be created. And some people say it's a bit more. We are calculating on that basis. So of course, some people are retiring from that, but at least 300,000 jobs, maybe 400,000 will be needed every year extra on top of the jobs that are there. And this is for the next 20 years at least. And that is a huge challenge in itself. And it becomes even bigger when you are thinking that we need more and better jobs to reduce poverty. And that is one thing. And the next question is, to what extent can international migration and maybe intra-country migration play a role in reducing poverty in this context? We and this is a highly regional issue. That there was a listening to the citizens of Uzbekistan survey in 2018 that they found that in Tashkent city, maybe 2% of the households have a migrant, and in the region like Forez, it's more like 40%. So this is a high. There's a high regional mention to this, and this comes together with the initiative of the president to promote regular migration, starting from the decree in September 2020, to really realize that migration can promote development if migration is well governed. And there are a lot of measures, of course, in the decree which have to do with job placement and education, and a lot of other things, language training, to make this international migration increasingly regular and increasingly well organized, and reduce the risks that are involved in this migration. And what's important to realize maybe is this follows on what the says. There may be some regions where there will be a lot of migration, and then a lot of policies in the region will need to be based on where people are going, not so much on the region itself. So if we know that a lot of the graduates, say, will go to Tashkent or will go to other regions, or will go abroad to find employment and welfare work, then this needs to be taken account in the education. For example, there needs to be proper English training or proper training in Russian or both. There needs to be vocational training that looks not only at the jobs that may be available locally, there will be jobs available locally, but there will also be many people who have to find jobs elsewhere.
And that's offered, training needs to be offered in the corporate way. So again, there are a lot of coordination. So I will limit my contribution to this to see all of this poverty reduction that we're talking about is taking place in the context of a lot of population growth and the growing nation or at least the activities. Like you may want to look at the role of migration in helping people find jobs.
Thank you, Matthias. And your last one, now I'll kind of talk about the intellectual right. So I want to sort of summarize the themes that were kind of echoed in the room, and let me start with the last speaker and go back to the first speaker, discussion. And so the theme of demographics, regional development, migration, back and down the US said, I just want to put it in context. So as far as I understand, more than half of the population of this country do not live in urban areas. And the sort of the difference, the inequality among people, and sometimes people within is quite high and sort of understudied. The difference in regional development kind of depends on the cost of moving from one city to another. So to give an example, Danny and you mentioned, there are some cities in a very fluent region like Kashmir, where you go and you see that there's a population of cities like Einbrenn, and Almalik or something. They haven't been increasing in their population for the last year. So there was some industrial growth in the Soviet era. So this is like a Rust Belt sort of idea that you can see here very clearly. And although in all dimensions, those cities look quite prosperous in the urban, schools, water, and infrastructure, but there's a lot of costs associated with moving out to the more productive places. And so I think as a result, there will be a lot of changes in industry composition and agriculture. Some places will not be viable, and it won't make sense to work there anymore, and people have to move out. But the cost of moving out are really high. You have to start houses, and nobody's waiting for them in Tashkent or something. So the cost of moving out is really quite high. And so in that context, I want to ask Dan and you kind of grapple with the question of how can you ensure that people from the present region, in which there aren't any opportunities coming up soon, and there aren't any more, can start new chapters in their life and work collectively, given the fact that moving is free. And so, yeah, how would you think of that?
Well, maybe I can answer. I think if you want to answer this for the international project, the international level very clearly there is a cost of migration. And right now, what that means is that networks, so people can friends and maybe friends will also go involved, but it may not always be the best possible information. And therefore, I think it's very important that the nation agency of course migration is actually setting up channels for formal migration, which are very small in present. I guess they will always be small in relative to all the unorganized migration. But I think this is extension standard, and that's actually reducing it. There's proper job placement, the employers will come here, they will seek out the job applicants, they will make sure that there's a good matching between the job applicant and the jobs that they have to offer. There will be language training, there's even thinking of funding the cost of travel, etc. So that cost is actually going to be taken care of by the policies that are beginning to be put in place. And of course, it's also being taken care of by all the networks. But the international level, that is part of things. But yes, it's a challenge, and migration needs to be governed well and access to sure that she's control
So in some sense, if I use this question to a very narrow question, let's say, if the government or say society wants to subsidize people to move out from the places that do not have as much efficacy, do you think it's a viable strategy? But I don't mean necessarily money, it's also information, access to networks, and so on and so forth. And the information is not uniformly distributed across society and community, and so how do you think?
First days, I think it's like right to say there's this sort of judicial subsidy element of some sort involved. The government just use their cost to watch this thing and taxpayers' money on it. But of course, migration does have a lot of complex development. There will be more there to be there will be diaspora networks which can be used for a lot of things. Not just for the migration, but also for imports. So I think yes, there is this the element, but it's justified because of all the way documents that's positive development that's each of these.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Then, what do you think about the cost of living? How would you allocate human capital cross country work for an equal percentage of this?
Well, it's a tough question. I think, first of all, one should probably distinguish lagging regions that, where there's high levels of poverty from what you're describing now, which is the equivalent of the Rust Belt, which is their basic services, which that's the infrastructure. But, you know, now, and the interventions, I think, are different. You know, one is, we know what we should do. The second one is harvest. The thing that ties them both together, however, is that people moving are moving to get a job somewhere else. So I think the point made, which is that there's just not enough jobs being created, right? So, yeah, you could come up with some explicit or implicit means of assisting mobility, which is basically, but mobility for what purpose? There has to have the job to be able to do it. There was a very interesting statistic in the latest World Bank diagnostic on Uzbekistan that said that in the past there had been on average 5% GDP growth and 1% increase in employment. So for economists, that's an elasticity, which is not good news.
Maybe it's productivity too, right?
Well, so government has some challenges. So coming back to the depressed region question, you could look at comparative advantage and see whether or not there are some investments that would make sense based on location or human capital of the area. But I also think that if you increase the amount of government benefits broadly defined that are on the person rather than where they are, that would be beneficial. It's one thing to have it's another thing to say that moving with that are certain benefits, which makes mobility feasible. But I think the sine qua non is the job creation problem. I don't think
Just one, even from small region two example. I agree with my colleagues, the job creation is another one. Whatever you're going to, one of the examples, generally, and on the last level, last village, totally empty. But when we decide creating a skill job, all back, village started their life. They're opening like hotels or guest house or something else. And this is the migration. It was empty. Second example, even city of Batumi itself. So population was only 125,000. But from 2011, we filling in not enough manpower. We announced like a special program, like building this social houses. And we had some problems and erosion. Bringing people from different regions to city of Batumi. Another question. Giving from village to the Batumi city like a plan to survey, but what can we do? To create a job. Let's say, you know, everything, migration, depending, there is a job.
We can very well.
So one, it's a natural way how people get to village. Second example is a natural way. Without them, of course, village people always prefer living in village.
Qo'shimchasi. Migrantlar nimaga o'zini yashab turgan hududidan boshqa hududga ko'chadi? O'zbekistonni bir yo'l ichida boradigan bo'lsa ham boshqa davlatga ko'chishini to'xtatadigan bo'lsak, eng avvalo ikkita masala bo'yicha. Birinchidan, yetarli ish topolmaganidan yoki yetarli daromadga ega bo'lmaganligidan bo'lsa, ikkinchisi bu yetarli yashash sharoitiga ega bo'lmaganligidan. O'zbekiston sharoitida deydigan bo'lsak, yetarli yashash sharoitiga ega bo'lmaganligidan fuqarolarimiz ko'proq shaharlarga ko'chadi. Viloyat markaziga va Toshkent shahariga. O'zbekistonda hozir taxminan 2,5 million atrofida chet elda migrantlar bo'ladigan bo'lsa, ular asosan ish topish maqsadida chet elga ketgan fuqarolarimiz hisoblanadi. Endi mana fikrim, haligi savolga qaytadigan bo'lsak, ularni migrantlarni hududdan boshqa hududga ko'chish yoki chet elga ishlashga borish ularni xarajatini chiqarish kerakmi, davlat yo'qmi? Bu yerda o'ylaymanki, hali aytganimdek, birinchi masalaga agar ushbu fuqarolarga o'zini joyida yetarli ish o'rin yaratib berish va yetarli yashash sharoitini yaratib berish imkoniyatiga ega bo'ladigan bo'lsa, davlat o'sha mablag'ni ularni ko'chishiga emas, o'sha infratuzilmaga, o'sha ishlarni yaratganga yo'naltirgani maqsadga muvofiq bo'ladi, joyida bo'ladi. Agardiki bu imkoniyat qimmat bo'ladigan bo'lsa va davlat o'zini prioritetini, hudud o'zini prioritetini chiqib, ularni chetga ishlashga yuborgan maqsadga muvofiq bo'ladigan bo'lsa, bitta avvalambor faqatgina ularni chetga chiqarishga, bularni aynan malakali mutaxassis sifatida chetga yo'naladigan bo'lsak, bu o'zini kelajakda samarasini beradi. Ya'ni nima demoqchimanki, mablag'ini ularni transport xarajatiga yoki yashash xarajatiga yoki sug'urtasini qoplab berishga emas, ularni malakasini birinchi oshirib, o'qitdi, qanaqa bir kasb berib, qo'liga yana hunar berib, bundan keyin chetga buni migratsiya yo'nalishi bo'yicha boshqa o'tishiga imkon beriladigan bo'lsa, bunda fuqarolar ko'proq shu maqsadga muvofiq bo'ladi, o'ziga foydali bo'ladi, asl maqsadiga erishgan bo'ladi. Chunki hozirgi holatda masalan ko'proq fuqarolarimiz Rossiyaga bizda boradi, hamma biladi. Rossiyaga borgan fuqarolar yashash sharoiti o'zidagi joydan farq qilmaydigan sharoitga, ayrim joylarda yomonroq sharoitga boradi. Va daromadda topish holati ham o'rtacha O'zbekistondagi daromaddan ko'p bo'lmagan daromadga boradi. Uning uchun bu nimadan daromat beradi? Agar shu fuqarolarimiz uchun o'rtacha $500, $1000 oladigan daromad o'zimizda hududda yaratishga imkon yaratadigan bo'lsak, buni bir qancha biz tumanlar misolida ko'rsatishimiz mumkin bo'ladi. Ya'ni bir vaqtlar buni ko'proq o'sha tumanlardan chetga odamlar ketgan bo'lsa, hozirgi paytda bular nazorat o'sha hududlardan ishlagani o'zini hududiga qaytib kelmoqda. Birinchidan yashash sharoiti yaxshi emas. Ikkinchidan O'zbekiston o'zida o'zini uy-joyida o'sha daromadni olish imkoniyatiga ega bo'ladi. Ikkita tuman nima? Ikkita viloyatda misol keltirish mumkin bo'ladi. Masalan, Surxondaryo viloyatimizdan Qashqadaryo viloyatida. Ikkita chegara hudud, lekin bularning migratsiyasi, ya'ni aholisini chet davlatga borib ishlashida juda katta farq bor. Karrasiga ketishi mumkin bo'ladi. Nimaga? hozirgi paytda Surxondaryoning iqlim sharoiti va odamlarni qishloq xo'jalik sohasida daromad olishini foydasini bilgan holda ko'proq odamlar o'zini qishloq xo'jaligiga urishi natijasida o'sha chetda Rossiyada ishlaydigan daromaddan ko'proq daromad olish mumkinligini tushunib yetdi. Teplitsa orqali o'sha o'zini hududdagi ertaroq pishadigan bolgarskiylar yoki boshqa qishloq xo'jalik mahsulotlarini yetishtirish orqali u yerda yaxshi daromad oladi. Sootветственно, buni chetga borishni o'sha narasiga kamaygan. Qashqadaryoda bo'ladigan bo'lsa, hali bu narsa bo'yicha yetarli sharoitimiz yo'q. Ya'ni Qashqadaryo ko'proq chorvachilikda rivojlangan, lekin chorvachilikda shunaqa yetarli daromad topish bo'yicha tizimli hali ish yo'lga qo'ya olmaganligi sababli bu yerda hali chetga borishlik yo'lga qo'yildi. Shuning uchun aytmoqchimanki, davlat pulni bergandan nafaqat bilan faqat xarajati, strafovkasi, borish yo'l karasini qoplash emas, maqsad yo uni joyida ish sharoiti yaratish imkoniyati bo'lsa, shunga yo'naltirishimiz kerak. Agar imkoniyat bo'lmaydigan bo'lsa, bularni bilimli hunarga qilib yo'naltganimiz munosib bo'ladi.
Katta rahmat so'rash uchun. I'll ask Bernie Mitchell and Mayor Garrett, again, take the opportunity if you want to. So the question about measuring poverty, and as you said, multi-dimensionality. But I just want to start with an anecdote. A grandmother of mine grew up in the city and then they moved to a rural area for a while where her dad was a teacher. And she said something to me that was kind of counterintuitive at the time, but now it makes more sense. That when they moved to rural areas, was after the boys at 40, their quality of life increased, although the salary stayed the same. And she said that the urban sort of poverty is way worse than a rural one. Because if you live in an apartment complex or whatever, you can't like grow food or you can't like goats or cows or whatever. And so if you look at her family's income in your statistical data, you see, so person A, person B, they make the same money, but then you don't know that the conditions that they live in, for example, urban area, makes them a lot harder to sort of live by than rural. So in that context, in this country, more than half lives in a rural area. And not all rural areas are the same. You can live in RLC where you can't grow anything, or in a desert. We can live in arable places in a Fergana Valley. So there's quite a big of difference in terms of what we mean by urban or rural. And so in that regard, how would you think the multidimensional measure would change the way we design policy, and would change the way that we should think about poverty as a complex issue and not only like all the calories and you go ahead first, and I think we'll let go next after.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I think this is why having a multi-dimensional measure as a monetary measure is so important, is because they are capturing different concepts and different experiences, which are real to the people who are living. So the multi-dimensional measure, these other types of things like overcrowdedness or security that might be more of an issues in urban areas, whereas or you can include things that might be more of issues in rural areas, like someone in rural area having land or livestock. And so I think having those two helps you get a fuller picture and then create policies that can address both sides of poverty. And if I can maybe tie that back to the discussion that was just happening about migration with an example. So in Bangladesh, there's one of the regions that was the poorest by multidimensional poverty. Was for monetary poverty. And one of the reasons was because it was a region where a lot of people were emigrating from the remittances. So they had relatively high monetary income. But it was very rural, but very remote region where they didn't have good infrastructure, which was being captured by multidimensional poverty. So when they were just thinking about poverty from a monetary standpoint, they weren't directing resources to this region because it didn't seem poor. But then they were falling into the trap that the deputy minister was thinking about, where you're maybe not big investment into these poor regions and giving people an opportunity to come down. And then multi-potential measures, you can see the experiences of the people beyond just their income, and that will enable policies that would able to address those things, water, sanitation, these types of basic infrastructure that have a huge impact on people's lives and experience.
Yeah, thanks so much, for your comment. And, can Mayor hear us? I don't know if it's a technical, Mayor, can you hear us? Can you unmute him or? So you want to see that, with the discussions going on. He's muted, I think. So, I'm gonna unmute him, or can you ask him to unmute? I don't think he can hear us. Okay, then, hope you guys connect, and I'll ask questions from the line, very quickly. You know, Uzbekistan is very fiscally and economically and politically concentrated, very unlike other, like, Bulgaria was a republic within Georgia. And what I wanted to ask you is, how do you guys manage this relationship between central government priorities and regional, and how much of a leeway you guys have with respect to design your own policy and being sort of autonomous from central government? How, you know, what were the challenges or experience and opportunities, and what would you learn from this relationship?
Of course, one of the advantage of Bulgaria was because autonomous republic, we had own government, own budget, own Supreme Council, parliament. So it gives you more possibility and flexibility. And for that reason, you know, even compare with the different part of different region of Georgia, of course, Batumi and Ajara was more successful. For that perspective, all of the governments really recommend what is necessary to do. Don't need like the autonomous republic system or whatever. I always recommend it, first of all, then with means or without or with the strategic plan, but defines priorities. Yes. Second, what I recommended always, it's more financial support and more financial independence to the regions. And third, of course, it's connected more political issues, but depending on the regions, how the relations between the central more power. So these three components, creating like a semi-systems which you can control in your from the central government level.
Thank you for your remarks. One thing is, we are very highly centralized system, Mr. Deputy Minister said, we're trying to open up this institution for like open budget where people can vote and what they're investing. And as far as your experience, if the regions have more fiscal autonomy, political autonomy not having more fiscal autonomy on what to spend their money on, regional level or national level, more challenges. Recommend.
So what is the fiscal? It's not like a budget system. Let's say, so you should divide it also all level of the government. Central level, like say regional level, and
How do you trade off stuff and what is going to be
you need to corruption, you should create a procurement system. Easy. It's easy. And even in Georgia, we have experience going back.
Yeah, so I think Uzbekistan is trying now trading off central authority with community, and I think that if you give it out to the regions, it will be harder to procure, harder to control, harder to regulate. So that's why
you should not do afraid. Don't scare.
No, I'm not. I'm very.
Because always the centralization somehow happens, sometimes. So we should start slowly. Maybe not immediately, but slowly start with this works. You're one of the examples I will give you. It's even not a regional level. On a village, it's always. What is the project? All villages, they have complaints. We need some. Creating formula and all villages, first of January, they have a month. Depending how many people. And nobody asking them what to do. Just on what? Government asking them papers. I need like a. Check, not check, even supporting of the villages. 51% of the villages supporting this project. It's okay. Go ahead. And it works. Somehow people want to work. Somehow they split this money because they understand this is it's not enough, but they can split it for 2 years. And then they wait one more year. So this is like an involvement. What is it? Most important. One day, all of the countries are down in the same market. Doing somewhere in the capital city. It's very hard to understand what's going on. What's going on in the specific village? Somehow I'm also working in this in capital. It was hard for me. It was easy for me to make a decision. But when I started working in regions, so I changed it. So, and too many people from regions here, I think they agree with me. So that was just to giving them more power. Power again, not the political power. Power to make a decision, even which school, kindergarten, or road, or water supply, or what are the priorities. When we push them agriculture, okay, but we need a different kind of the world. Maybe we push them to think about like energy, but no, they want to
Yeah, thank you. I think it was a very beautiful discussion. The question? So I'm not sure we have a microphone. Do we have a microphone? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if I can be heard.
Yeah.
I'm Eric Livni, EBRD. And I just happened to live in Georgia for a very long time. 15 years. And Ivan was telling us about Batumi becoming a fantastic touristic destination. 1.5 million in tourists in 2018. An interesting point that should be made in this context is that all of this 1.5 million came to Batumi in just 2 months. So these are the months of July and August. And when you just happen, if you happen to arrive to Batumi at this time of the year, you will find incredible congestion, very high prices, and not a very good quality of service. It's just the city is overwhelmed. If you come to Batumi in February, March, you will find it a very sad place, empty, not many businesses open, prices are actually very low, weather may be still nice. Now, where I'm going with it, a lot of the options we are discussing for regional development in those remote areas are about seasonal activities. We're talking about tourism in many places, and we're talking about agriculture. I live in Georgia, as I told you. Agriculture is extremely seasonal. People harvest their wine in September. They make lots of, they store a lot, and then the rest of the year they have a happy time drinking. But this is not regional development. You know, this is people staying in the regions, maybe happy because of low prices and a lot of wine, but totally underemployed. You know, maybe they need a good road or a visa-free regime to be able to escape. But they're stuck. Many of them are.
Thank you for your comments. And by the way, even though I wasn't with him in July, it was wonderful as well. So I mean, it's so good that even in July it's fine. Hopefully you like it. Thanks a lot, everybody, for your attention. It was
With the diversity, I mean, the season. Of course, it's we don't compare like the season, Black Sea, never comparable with the Mediterranean. Different values. But that's why we keep diversity. Unfortunately, I bring the presentation, but protecting our reason is impossible to control. Because not only Black Sea and sea to Pacific, all of that. And most important thing, we did it like environmentally. During the 8 years, we created more than 25% of territory we like a protected thing. Protected areas of national park. Next step was just to how to develop in boundaries. Boundaries, I already mentioned one of the great stories, is ski resort. And this combination, like the agro, whaling, religion, mountains, ski, museums, and of course sea, tourists, we give a combination just to have it all around, all time goods. Mostly, everywhere, Soviet Union, all people going to holiday, July, August, that's all. But during our time, we increase, during the season, it's just 1 May, we have, you know, end of September. We had a problem with the price. Well, for that reason, ski resort and different diversity of tourists give us a possibility to increase. For agriculture, of course, we cannot compare with and mostly our priority was just to developing the natural agro products because knowledge, developing the nursery, developing you mentioned wine? It's a category, number one. We cannot compare like a Western project compare with sorry.
No, thanks again. The point of this kind of discussion is to like pick your brains about these issues. And we may not find you will not find answers right now, but like I want you to think about it, shoot an email, for example, and the issues won't go away. I think that has closing remarks, and after that we'll close.
You know, apropos what you just said, I think one should leave you as the audience with some controversial points. So my first controversial point is to say no one's opposed to communities deciding how they should invest some discretionary funds. Okay, that's different from the delivery of service. Right? If I want sanitation or water for a small village, unless they're going to do it themselves, they're going to have to rely on some higher level of government. So no, you don't want decisions made in Tashkent for every village. On the other hand, every village can't come up with a water supply program or rural electrification on its own. So the balance is somewhere in between. I think there's a tendency to go for the endpoints rather to look at something. The second is that I think regional development can mean different things to people. The same way that the vice minister was talking about highly trained people emigrating, low school people emigrating. The policy intervention are totally different to do those two parts of the labor market. But my point here is that regional development at the level of what we used to call basic human needs in terms of delivery of basic services, there's no doubt it needs to happen, right? And that includes, you know, capital development, etc. I think the controversy, and that's where I think it should be more controversial, is in coming up with what's the productive, efficient, competitive view that can generate incomes and jobs in the region. And I think my final answer to that would be have regions compete for funds. Come up with a good idea. Right? The central government's not going to tell you what you comparatively make. You need to make it up yourself. Compete for some funds for some aspects of economic activity. Otherwise, every region thinks that they're good in everything.
So, please, we can talk offline and talk coffee breaks and, other places. I have to close because, people are gonna kill me because I'm running late, but it's not my fault because, lunch was late. So thanks a lot for your attention. It was wonderful. And please, shoot out an email. Thank you.